All right. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's virtual event featuring Riedel Glassware. My name is Shannon, and I'm a part of the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlet's social team. Tonight, I'm joined by the team that brings Riedel Glassware to our New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets, Colin Gogan and Craig Pierce. These guys know a thing or two about Riedel, so we're lucky to have them tonight and talking to us about everything and all things Riedel. So in addition to Colin and Craig, we also have Chad Gibson of the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets Wines marketing team. Chad's here to answer any of your questions regarding availability and inventory. And I have heard he does drink from Riedel Glassware as well. So feel free to leave any questions for him. For those of you that pre-registered tonight, and actually I believe everyone really has access to a $2 off coupon for, is it any and all Riedel products in stores?
All 5 of the regular listed. So there's only 2 that don't qualify because they're already closed out and they can only be found in store 50 in Nashua. But the core Riedel items that we do sell in the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission, $2 off.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So with that, I will pass it off to you, Colin and Craig. What can you tell us about Riedel?
Okay, great. Shannon, thank you. Chad, thanks for having us. This is a great way to end the day because I can say I'm working and I'm actually drinking wine. And Shannon, thank you for saying Riedel correctly. People say Riedel all the time. I've had people argue with me and George and Maximilian Riedel, who run the company. I always say, well, the family pronounces it that way, so maybe we should too. So thank you. Maximilian's currently running the company under George's watchful eye. He's 11th generation of an Austrian glassmaking family. They actually started in the business making glass buttons way back in Croatia and Austria. And Maximilian's grandfather, who was a wine lover, discovered a difference in his enjoyment of wine based on the size and shape of the glass. So he started studying it, and they've taken it to a whole new level. We're really fortunate that as an item in the state stores, it makes perfect sense for the best glass in the world to be available to the consumers to enjoy their wine. So a Riedel rep that I met when I started in this business 16 years ago, said it best when talking about Riedel. He said, if you could buy a plate that every bit of food you served on it tasted better, would you ever eat off any other plate? And it's very simple. We wouldn't. So there's something we're going to talk. We're only going to spend about half an hour with you tonight because this is sort of a demo situation, because we can't be all that interactive because we don't know what you're drinking out of from home. I hope you're drinking responsibly. I'm supposed to say that. Chad is thinking really loudly right now. I hope you are drinking some wine with us. I want to point out a couple simple things in this first half hour together that you should know about what makes Riedel different. And this is the thing that I think is the most important part. I don't know if you can see, we probably all have half a dozen of these kind of clunky, heavy glasses in our house. And I'm going to put this up to the camera. This is the Riedel glass. This is the clunky glass. And I want you to look at the rims on those 2 glasses. So here's the difference. This rim is actually an unfinished glass. When it cools, the glass is gravity is still affecting the glass, and you get this rolled rim here. This is actually an unfinished glass, but it's the cheapest way to make. It's an expensive last step to properly cut the rim. Riedel, when their glass is cool, it looks just like this. They laser cut every single glass. And what that does is it makes the wall of the glass and the rim of the glass the same thickness. Now, you may say, well, geez, what's the big deal? The big deal is that, believe it or not, when you take a sip out of a glass like this, that lip causes turbulence as the wine comes onto your palate, and that turbulence accents the less the worst characteristics of the wine is the best way to say it. So there's volatile compounds in all wines. Even the best wine in the world has them. And when they get excited, they impart inferior flavors onto your palate. So something as simple as the glass being improperly finished changes your experience altogether. This, the wine slides effortlessly from the glass, is not disturbed unless you're pounding. It's not disturbed, and it just slides onto your palate. That's a huge attribute of a Riedel glass. Any wine glass you see that has the wall and the rim the same thickness, you're dealing with a top-notch glass. This is what my grandmother used to drink wine out of. Now, she learned English as a second language. She was French. I was born in 1967. She was 80 when I was born because she had my mom when she was 40, and my mom had me when she was 40. She insisted that drinking wine out of this tasted no different than drinking wine out of this or out of this. Might have been the only thing my grandmother was ever wrong about. Well, two things. She liked my brother Stephen better. So Colin is going to talk a little bit about the shape of the glass and the opening, and he's going to taste a couple of wines with us now. We're going to jump right in with a white wine glass.
All right, so I have two glasses as well. I actually have a couple, but just before we get into this parts of the glass, these are the two glasses that I have. This is the one I will be drinking out of. This is the Overture white wine. I have two white wines I'm going to be demoing out of. The reason I have two in front of me, thank you, Craig. The reason I have two in front of me is this is the one Craig will be using shortly after. If you go on the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlet's website, they look very similar because they are kind of similar in shape in the picture online. You can never really tell the full story of a photo online. So I wanted to give a full demo of the sizing and shaping difference of one versus the other. You can obviously see this is much more petite. It's much more focused. Here in the bowl has a narrower rim, which suits many white wines more applicably than this wider rim that opens up some of the characteristics that we like to enjoy more in red wines. So we have the bowl, we have the base, and this is a very important part that nobody gives a lot of attention to, and it's called the stem. The reason we drink wine with a glass with a stem is to hold it. You do not palm the glass like this. Reason being, I'm 97 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. It's hot. So are you. Whoever's watching this, I hope you're around those temperatures or something's wrong. You're heating up the glass as you palm it. You get dirty fingerprints all over your crystal, one that's kind of gross in itself, but you're changing the temperature of the wine. It's all about preserving the integrity in what the wine is designed to do. The glass is just the vessel to make sure your wine is being delivered the way it's intended to be made, or the way it was intended to be made and how you are enjoying it. So we hold the wine glass like so, like this, by this stem. Very important part. Now, Craig has a cup that his grandmother used to drink wine out of. I have a cup that I actually used to drink wine out of. So it is just a plastic cup. Before I got into the wine industry, before I knew anything about wine, if I went down to the Cumberland Farms and bought a big magnum of cheap wine to drink, it would be out of something like this.
And you could fit the whole bottle in that glass, and it cut down on trips to the kitchen. So very smart, very good planning.
Off my living room floor.
That's right.
Sunday.
You must have been a Boy Scout.
Yeah, it's still the same thing. I just have fancier glasses and I have to get up a lot more. So I have two wines. One of them is a personal favorite. It's the one I'm going to be drinking first. Frog's Leap Sauvignon Blanc, Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc. Couple reasons why I'm going to be trying this one. One, for the demo of this example, light, aromatic, fresh, crisp, white wine. Two, John Williams, the winemaker and owner of Frog's Leap, is probably my favorite winemaker in the United States. And he will be joining us on the 29th. So please log back on. We won't be talking about glassware. So if you have any questions about glassware, please ask me during this demo. But John is going to be talking with Chad about sustainability in viniculture in the wine industry. John is a leader in this topic. Yeah, it's fascinating for him to break down everything that's going on in viniculture right now and sustainability. So I won't derail from this conversation anymore. I just wanted to shed light on that. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to be using my Joker glass first.
All kidding aside, do not miss John Williams. It will if you have any interest at all in sustainability and biodynamics whatsoever in any industry, not just grape growing. He is the guru on the subject.
Okay, so a couple things with this wine. There's absolutely no nose in this glass, or cup, I should say. There's no nose, and on the palate immediately, you don't get fruit. You don't get any of the acid, really, the crispness. It's just a punch of alcohol, and it's actually very weighty. In the glass, you start to get fruit. It's bright. And then there it is. It's light, it's crisp, it's mineral. It's very strange how a wine that's designed to be so light and refreshing can actually be so big and overpowering in not the right ways. Craig has a couple big red wines that he'll be drinking with you in a few seconds, and those are designed to be that way. In the cup, it's just a big smack of alcohol, and this is a low alcohol wine. It's just disproportioned the way it's being delivered. And here you get mineral and like a flintiness, and that's all due to everything John Williams puts into the bottle. It's a very pretty wine. So the second wine that we're going to be trying in this white wine glass is completely different wine. Rombauer Chardonnay. Rombauer is a big Napa Valley Chardonnay. It is known to be big. It should be big. So two different styles of white wine out of the same glass. And again, I'm going to use the same Joker glass first.
Colin, people are cringing right now online with
the
glass choice. Yeah.
It's interesting because on the first wine, I actually said I had no nose. I couldn't pick up literally nothing out of the Frog's Leap Sauvignon Blanc. Here, the nose is extremely prevalent. It's butter, but it's like cooked butter. Butter is a characteristic we will find in Rombauer, and that's a characteristic they try to strive for, but not like this cooked, overpowering butter. And no fruit. Again, with the white wines out of this, it's just alcohol. It's very weighty, like it actually should be. That's that style, but and again, the same way the Frog's Leap Sauvignon Blanc was, it's just a lot of. It's actually cream. And again, Rombauer should have a creaminess texture, but the flavor shouldn't be cream. So, and right there, it's kind of coming through. Let's try it in the Riedel glass. And immediately on the nose, you get lemon. This is a big styled Chardonnay, but it's actually well proportioned. It's the people behind Rombauer do an excellent job crafting this, and it always has lemon. It's really, really bright for a big shouldered Chardonnay. I don't even want to spit that. It's awesome. It's really great, pretty wine, because here you have the acid comes through to manage it all. The creamy texture is there, but it doesn't taste like cream. The butter is there, but it's not cooked gross butter. Everything is in harmony. It's crazy to think how this glass changed two completely different style white wines in just one vessel. So please, I would do this at home, even if it's with that big clunky glass that Craig showed you. That's the best way to try these things, is use a Joker glass like this to a big clunky glass, and then go to the New Hampshire State Liquor and Wine Outlets, pick up a couple glasses of Riedel, and even try from that big clunky glass. I believe in you guys. From that Riedel glass, you will see the difference in all three. And then once you go from the Joker glass to the Riedel glass, it's just absolutely not even night and day. It's two different years. So yeah, that's it for my glasses. I'm going to read some of the chats. I'll try to respond while Craig goes through his.
Thanks, Colin. So I just want to show you before we start. So this is the Riedel stemless Cab Merlot glass. It's actually the best seller in the state stores of the Riedel items. And this is the Magnum. This is the red wine version of what Colin just tasted out of it. And I want you to notice that these are pretty similar shaped, and that the gauge on the rims is very similar too. This is meant to be an all-around red wine glass, primarily for blends. This is meant to be specific for Cab and Merlot. They're pretty similar, and I'm telling you that for a reason, because Colin only had one glass to work with, but because I have two and a Joker glass, I'm going to taste each wine out of two glasses plus the Joker. One of the things about the size of the rim is whether or not your nose makes it into or out of the glass while you're sipping. All scientists agree that at least 50% of your sense of taste comes from your sense of smell. That's why when you have a cold, everything tastes the same. You only get the sharpest flavors because your honker's not working. You're not picking up on the flavors. That's a big part of the experience. So they discovered that when you're building a wine glass, based on the attributes of the wine, that has a lot to do with how tapered it is at the top will slow down the breathing process of the wine, and keep your nose less in the glass. A bigger rim will allow the wine that's in it to breathe sooner. Breathing is the evaporation of the alcohol and some of those compounds that don't do the wine any favors will wick away with that alcohol. So that's why so many people say the best glass of wine is the last one in the bottle. If you're drinking out of Colin's beer pong cup, it's the last glass isn't already in it. So that may not apply, but we're going to start with one of my favorite producers. I don't know if you guys know Cannonball, but they have another label called Angels and Cowboys. This is their proprietary red blend that's available in the state stores. And I'm going to try that first out of the Overture Magnum red wine glass. That's the package in the state stores. And I'm just gonna test the nose on these first. I'm not gonna taste, and I'm gonna go from glass to glass. So This is primarily a Zinfandel blend. There's Petit Syrah, there's Carignan, there's some Merlot in here, there's regular Syrah. There's a lot going Grenache. There's a lot going on in here. So I get this nice fruit nose. I get this pleasant earthy dustiness from this glass. There's almost like a cranberry and dried cranberry going on at the same time when I smell it out of this glass. Remember, this is the Magnum Red, and this is the Cabernet Merlot. Now I get the same aromas muted that I get out of this glass, and you saw me pour from one glass to the other. I know you guys are just trusting us on this because we're not interacting with each other, but there's a tiny little metallic edge to the aromas and definitely a deadening of the fruit. It's still all there. And that nice kind of dustiness is just straight on earth in this glass for aromas. Almost nothing. I mean, I had to really draw almost nothing. If I hadn't smelled the attributes, the good attributes of this wine in these glasses, I probably wouldn't be able to figure out the cranberry thing in here. But because I just did that, I can tell what it is, but it's almost nothing. All right, so let's do the taste. Ooh, sassy. So a lot of good fruit, a really nice tartness to it. There's a kind of there's a tannic grip, but it's not an attack. It's kind of playing with my tongue. It's not really in charge, but it's not really being shy either. Nice balance on all the fruits. And again, that kind of playful tannic grip. So again, nose is slightly muted. Just tiny metallic edge.
Craig, everyone seems to really be interested in this bottle of wine. If you wouldn't mind showing us the label again.
So the founder of Cannonball, his name's Yoav Gilat. Great guy. A friend of his is an artist, and he like walked into his house 20 something years ago, and he had this print that he had made, or it was actually a original artwork. And Yoav said, if I ever have my own winery, I'm going to do a wine label with that. And it took him about 10 years after he started Cannonball to do it. But we sell a lot of their rosé. Colin, do we have something new coming from them on the Angels and Cowboys label?
Not right now, but I did want to say I just actually copied and pasted the rosé code. So I'm copy and pasting the red code right now.
Yeah, we go through, we sell a lot of the rosé. It's really good. So it's everything I liked in this glass, a whole notch down out of this glass. And I'm getting alcohol notes in this glass that I didn't get in this glass. In fact, I'm not swallowing the wine, and I'm actually feeling the alcohol in my throat, because there's something about this glass that's accenting that more. My nose is actually fitting all the way in this glass when I sip too, which is probably part of the difference. All right, let's see what it does in Mime's glass. It completely ghosted the fruit. The fruit's gone, and that playful tannin just threw my tongue in a headlock. It's not enjoyable at all. Wow. The tannic grip from this was enjoyable and a great part of drinking it out of this glass. It's actually cleaving my tongue to the roof of my mouth, and I'm having trouble getting rid of it. It's full on accentuating all the tannin. That's probably what's going on in this with this glass. It's not so much that the fruit it's not that the fruit ghosted. It's that the tannin is completely overwriting the fruit. All right, so an old favorite of ours from our good friends at J. Lore. J. Lore Paso Cabernet. Jerry Lore was an engineer. And for those of you of a certain age, you may or may not remember when the US was building the space shuttle program, Jerry worked for NASA. And one of the problems they had with building the shuttle and making it work was that they couldn't come up with a material that during re-entry from space, a lot of heat is generated from the friction of the atmosphere. And they couldn't, the test shuttles were burning up on re-entry, the unmanned ones, and they couldn't get their heads wrapped around it. Jerry Lore invented these ceramic tiles that allowed the space shuttle to exist, because if it weren't for that, they wouldn't have been able to do it. They could have said they could send one up, but they couldn't bring them back down. So it does take a rocket scientist to make wine sometimes. All right, so a note about no stem. So the stem is super important because of heat transfer. These glasses, literally, no word of a lie, exist because Max Riedel, when he was living in New York, had a very tiny apartment, and his china cabinet was very small. And he said, I need a way to have more wine glasses, and I have no room to put them. And this is the idea he came up. This is what got him thinking about this. Now, I will tell you that these glasses do float in the hot tub, which is great in the winter, because when you're drinking red wine, it gets too cold outside. So you put it in the tub, you let it do a couple of laps, and by the time it comes back to you, your wine's back to the right temperature. It's awesome. But Colin's right. Your wine is always trying to justify to the temperatures around it. So these are a sporty way to keep your dog from knocking it off the coffee table with its tail as it goes by. Tail goes right over it. They're fun. They're convenient. If you buy them, keep the boxes and store them that way, because even though you don't knock these over as often, there's something about not having a stem, I think, that makes me be a little less careful around them. So I actually break more of these than I break of these. All right, so we'll start with the proper glass with the J. Lore. How are we doing on time? I got a minute.
You're doing good. We actually, while you're pouring out, we have a question in regard to the pour, if that plays any or a big part in overall flavor profile?
Colin, you want to field that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the glasses are designed to accommodate and drink out of a standard 5 to 6 ounce pour, 5 ounce pour, really. But we always pour even a little shy of that. The main reason I pour a little even shy of 5 ounces is pour more, you pour less, you pour often. You actually, it's proven that you drink a little more when there's less in the glass, and it actually opens it up a little more. So the glasses are all designed at 5 ounces to be at the widest part of the glass.
A wine.
So that, you go ahead, Craig. No, because that's lower because it's shorter at the bottom.
But traditionally, a wine glass is supposed to be filled to where it starts to just before it's at its widest point, traditionally. But these are all designed to be 5 ounces. The other thing too about pouring shorter is keeping the wine in the bottle versus in your glass. It's going to stay at the right temperature longer. We drink our red wines too warm here, and we drink our white wines too cold. White, you know, the temperature of the earth, the traditional cellars and winemaking regions, the temperature of the earth is 55 degrees. And that's how wine is vinified, is in cellars and underground tanks throughout the ages. So the whites want to be a little cooler than that, and the reds want to be a little warmer than that, but they want to be much closer to that temperature. And I would suggest, if you're a red wine drinker and you don't do this, to try it as its own trial. But throw your favorite glass of red, if it's your favorite bottle of red, if it's at room temperature in your house, throw it in the fridge for 45 minutes before you open it. Or when you open it, put it in the fridge, and you'll see a difference, because again, that alcohol evaporation excites the volatile compounds in the wine. And if you're drinking it too warm, you are exposing yourself to more of the negative flavors in the wine. So I get this just gentle, soft, wonderful Cabernet aroma out of this. There's a little suede in there. Grapefruit, really nice. That's grapefruit, not grapefruit. Yeah. It just smells yummy. So we'll put it, so this is the Cab Merlot glass. So we'll put it in the red wine Magnum. Kim Blaine, wine fridge is worth the investment. Amen. Okay, so sort of the reverse. The soft, really balanced aromas, really inviting aromas from this glass get more generous in this glass. However, not all for the better. I'm getting a pretty pronounced coffee note in this, like coffee grounds, which isn't a bad aroma, but it definitely wasn't showing itself in the Cab Merlot glass, and it definitely is here. Getting a little alcohol burn in my nostrils out of this glass, but still very pleasant and inviting. I know for sure there's wine in this. That's all I can tell you. There's no nuances. There's no attributes. There's nothing inviting about it, but I can tell it's red wine made from grapes. That's it. Almost seamless. Really, really intriguing Cabernet for this price point. Tannins just like a a rope right through it. It's really nice. The tannin in this glass did exactly what it's supposed to do in a California Cabernet. This one grew elbows. This one's throwing elbows in this glass. It's spiky and sharp edged, and definitely overshadowing the fruit. Still good. It's still doing its job as an all-around red glass. Still enjoyable, but compared to that glass, it made the tannins a lot more edgy. Yeah, same as with the Angels and Cowboys. The tannin is actually problematic out of that glass. And I can't pick out a single specific fruit flavor out of that glass at all. So I grew up in a
Craig,
house.
did you see a lot of the tannin pop more than the alcohol in that?
You know what?
Joker glass
With the cab, the alcohol wasn't as much of a stark difference as it was with the red blend.
Interesting.
That's a testimony to how well Steve makes that wine for them.
Yep.
That it's still drinkable out of that, but the tannin is like the thing you walk away from.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And I really didn't notice. Now that you're saying that and you've influenced me, I'm noticing alcohol now.
Right.
And maybe if I was swallowing the wine, it would be more pronounced. But
no, it's when I was drinking the whites out of the Joker, I noticed the big weighty body. I'm like, it makes zero sense why this was a big wine in that Joker, but and I'm like, oh, it's white wine tannin. Like we don't assimilate those two things together. But it was like I completely saw past that until right now. But it was 100% tannin.
I find with whites, the wrong glass will tend to make a white wine just straight out flabby.
Yeah.
It just gets flabby.
Yep.
And it's like, this is going to give me the rosy cheek look, but it's not all that good.
Yep.
So, so the Mime glass, when the next time you're at a family gathering and your uncle or something is saying, I don't need a fancy glass, make sure you go out and buy him some Riedel and do this with him. We did this tasting event at Nashville Country Club years ago, and there was this guy sitting in the front, and he was not in a good mood, and he was an older gentleman, and he was very cranky. He reminded me of the old guys in the balcony on the Muppets, without all the laughter. And I'm like, is he gonna like heckle us? What's going on? And so all of a sudden, like by the time he tasted from the second glass, he starts getting animated and he's talking to people. And we finished the seminar and we went around to the back of the room, and they were having a little reception before people went into dinner. And he pushed his way through the crowd and he's like, I'm an engineer. I've been fighting with my wife for a month about having to come to this thing and what a bunch of horse pucky it is that the shape of a glass changes the flavor of the wines. I said, well, it's not changing the flavors of the wines. It's allowing them to show themselves. And he goes, I know. And he goes, I can't believe, because this guy had a big wine cellar, and he said he's been drinking out of this stuff his whole life. He's a successful person. And he's like, I can't believe all the years I've wasted. And it's like that. And that was like only the second Riedel seminar I did years and years ago. So it's the real deal. I hope you go out and get some. Thanks for joining us tonight. And feel free
Like, can
to.
you just remind us of the 5 varieties that we offer in stores?
Go ahead,
So
Colin.
we offer, there's 4 different wine varieties in one spirit. The one spirit is a whiskey glass. It's a really beautiful rocks glass. We also have in the stores the Overture Champagne. So same series as this white wine glass in the stemmed glass, that red glass that Craig was drinking out of, in a champagne flute style. And then these 3 wine glasses that we were demoing: the Overture White, the Overture Magnum Red, and the O Cab Merlot. Those are
These
the
these
5.
are two, and these are 2-packs.
Yes, every one of those is a 2-pack that I listed. What about decanters? We don't have any decanters. Riedel does make them. We don't sell them in the New Hampshire liquor and wine outlets. They are mainly for restaurants, or if you would like some $500 handmade decanters. I know Chad is in the market to place some of those in the New Hampshire State Liquor and Wine outlets. We have access to them. I think they actually go up to 800. Beautiful handmade pieces. They're actually stunning works of art, but we don't have any in the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine outlets at this moment.
This is a little bit off of the Riedel glasses, but you guys talked a lot about tannins, and we did have a Facebook question kind of defining what a tannin is. And I don't know if you can give a little bit of insight as to what that really is.
So tannin's a compound that's found in organic material. If you've ever heard the term tanning leather or tanning hides, that's the chemical they use to preserve leather. It's found in grass, it's found in acorns, it's found in grape seeds. When you bite into a grape and you bite one of the seeds and you get that bitter feeling. In fact, I want you to do that. Next time you have a tannic red wine, bite into a grape seed and you'll see that there are a lot of similarities to the tannin nuances you're getting in the wine and that effect it's having as an astringent on your tongue. Grass has a ton of tannin in it. So guess what has a lot of tannin in it as well? Beef. So that's why red wine and a big steak go really well together. So tannins throughout our food chain, and is a useful as an industrial thing, like I said, in tanning the hides. But it also is very prevalent in red wines. There's tannin in white wines as well.
Yeah, that's why when I was bringing it back, there's tannin in everything, like Craig said, but we don't taste real tannin itself as a flavor and a lot of white wines. Most white wines we would be oaked white wines, so Chardonnays, because we're getting the tannin from the oak itself, not necessarily from the wine. Because for tannins to come out in wine, the most prevalent cause is the skins in the seeds. And that is why your red wine is red, because it sits on the skins. So that releases a lot of the tannin. It's a wanted property in red wines. It is an unwanted property in many whites, and almost all whites. The best way to describe tannin as a sensation: take a black tea bag, put it straight on your tongue, let it sit there for a minute. Like, that's the most direct example I can give of tannin.
It's that sensation you get of all the moisture wicking away from your tongue and your tongue sticking to the roof of your mouth. So it's an astringent reaction. And wine involves all the senses. You sight, smell, taste, but touch as well, because the reaction on your tongue from alcohol and tannins and other compounds in the wine. I have a biological meter. I can pretty much tell you that if I can feel alcohol to here on my chest when I swallow wine, that it's right around 15% alcohol, because of all the wine that I've drunk over the years and doing this for a living. I know how far down the burn goes, and right there's 15% for me. So you react to it. Your sense of hearing, the cork, the bubbles in champagne popping, It brings all the wine brings all the senses together. And it's just yummy.
Well, and one of the things too, I was going to say is if someone wants to really learn how tannins, like what they're like, kind of like what Colin said, take a tea bag, brew 3 different strengths of black tea, put one in there for like, just dip it into the hot water, have one brew for like a minute, have one brew for like 5 minutes, and then try all 3 of them in succession. That's the best way to describe tannins. It's that, like what Craig said, it's that moisture getting pulled away from your mouth. It's that interesting, like dry sensation that as soon as it hits your tongue, it just saps all that moisture out. And that's the best way to describe how tannins will be and how to experience them. And kind of like what Craig was saying is your body reacts to every different thing. It's kind of like the sweetness of the wine, different parts of your tongue pick it up, the acids, every single thing that you taste, different parts of your body react to it. And it's very interesting how different people have different tasting profiles. So kind of similar to, glassware, everybody tastes wine different too. And it does make a huge difference when you do the glassware, and everybody's not going to taste the same thing. So it's definitely something to experience and try and find what you like.
And you could make a bunch of different teas, or you could just have a glass of J. Lohr Cabernet like I'm having now, and it will give you the same lesson.
I like that one, Craig. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been so awesome. There's been so many great questions. I've learned quite a lot quite a lot more than I was even anticipating. So this is awesome. I am guilty of being the Joker glass 50% of the time. So I definitely need to be upgrading to some Riedel for sure.
Shan, next time we'll see you, we'll throw one your way.
Thanks. Okay, so for those of you that are still with us, which is still quite a few, I did want to let everyone know that we're doing some of these events for the rest of this month, and we actually are going to be joined by Chris and Jamie Benziger of Benziger Vineyards this Friday. So if you're interested in joining us for that event, please be sure to pre-register on our Eventbrite page. If you just go to Eventbrite and search New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets, you will find our page and go ahead and pre-register. All events, of course, are free, and most of them have some type of a coupon. Like tonight, don't forget, is $2 off of the Riedel products in stores. And some of our events also have giveaways. So always something worth checking out. And of course, be sure to rewatch any of the events after the fact on Facebook. Take your notes. I know a lot of people refer back to them, for their own drinking tips and tricks. So again, thank you guys so much. This has been so awesome, and we hope to see everyone again on Friday night.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night, everyone.